right. We are at the 1 o'clock hour, JT. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome to the Half Guard Half Hour, my podcast where I talk to friends, people in the martial arts community, and just kind of get to know you. It's a live show, guys. So be aware, towards the end of the half hour, you will be able to drop questions for JT in the comments box. So don't forget to do that towards the end of the show. So with that being said, JT, welcome to the Half Guard Half Hour. I am honored, and I feel so privileged to have you on.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Excited to be here today and have some good conversations.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So with that being said, I want to jump right in with, if you can, for some of our audience members who are joining us, who may not know a little bit about your background, can you give us a brief history of what got you started in jiu-jitsu? And tell us a little bit about why you wanted to do jiu-jitsu.
So I first, I started off with martial arts at a young age. I was about 11 years old when I first started with karate. And through karate, I was introduced to wrestling, MMA, and all that. The way I was introduced was through my karate teacher, who was actually at that time, a NHB fighter, which was like no holds barred, right? It was like the MMA before MMA was actual MMA. And so he was really into learning other martial arts and learning other arts. And he was also a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. So he's the one who told my parents, hey, you should sign him up for mat club for wrestling. And, let's teach him a little bit of jiu-jitsu here and there. And so he's the one who really got me started on that path. And my path was first started for a potential career in MMA one day, which obviously never took place. It turned out to be a route I didn't want to take. But around the age of 14 years old, I got my black belt in karate, and I actually wanted to quit martial arts. I didn't want to do martial arts anymore. I wanted to, play basketball in high school, which I didn't make the team. I also had dreams of being a pro skateboarder one day, which, I really enjoyed skateboarding, still do to this day. But, obviously I wasn't that talented in skateboarding. So my father was the one who always told me, hey, stay in shape, stay active. Why don't you go back to the dojo where you used to train at and stay in shape, do something, stay active. And, I told myself I didn't want to do karate anymore, but I'll give jiu-jitsu a shot. At the time, my karate teacher had a class once a week just teaching jiu-jitsu. And like I said, he was just a blue belt at the time under Hoist Gracie. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go back and just do the jiu-jitsu class, see if I like it. And I loved it, man. I instantly fell in love with it. I told myself, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I remember doing jiu-jitsu and hitting a submission that first class and getting someone to tap out. I got tapped out too, but I remember tapping somebody out and just feeling how powerful of an art jiu-jitsu was, where I spent already a couple of years doing karate where I was, kicking and punching a bag or kicking and punching in front of the mirror, which was cool, but, it wasn't hands-on like jiu-jitsu is. So when I felt the power of that art, I was like, man, this is amazing. This is what I got to do. And I fell in love, man. I fell in love, and I told myself I want to do this for the rest of my life. And within the first few weeks of training jiu-jitsu, I gave myself 3 goals to accomplish. I want to become a black belt. I want to open my own academy, and I want to be a world champion one day. And, I'm proud to say that I've kind of fulfilled those goals of mine. And, I'm here still going steady with jiu-jitsu.
Awesome. So yeah, speaking of, you're a multiple-time world champion, multiple-time ADCC champion, which is the top, I think the top of the threshold that you can get in jiu-jitsu. Going into jiu-jitsu the way you have, being as successful as you have, what does your training regimen look like when you're starting to train for competitions? And are you the type of person who, kind of like an MMA fighter, is always in shape and ready to take a fight at a moment's notice?
Yeah, I'm always definitely in shape. I think that's one thing that, separates the second and third place from the first place, right? You're always in shape. To be a champion and give yourself the best chance of becoming world champion, you got to be in shape all year round. So I'm always, training and being active and, staying at a good level physically. But when it comes time to kick into high gear for the tournaments, I give myself about 8 weeks out, 2 months out before a big tournament. And I'm training twice a day, Monday through Friday. And Saturday, I usually finish off the week with like a nice light session, whatever it may be. I always call it like an active recovery day. But throughout the week, I have 2-a-days where I'm either doing jiu-jitsu or strength conditioning. And then in between all of that, I'm also teaching classes and also, getting some roles in with my students and things like that. So I'm pretty much training all day. But for the most part, the morning session, which is my hardest session, is at 11 a.m. Then at night, I usually follow up with a strength conditioning session or a jiu-jitsu session. So Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, strength conditioning. Tuesday, Thursdays, I double up with the jiu-jitsu. But every morning at 11 a.m. is my competition class at my academy, and that's the hardest session of the day. That's the session where, I push myself, and I tell all my students that come to that class, look, if you come to the class at 11 a.m., this is a class where we're working to win world titles. So be prepared to work hard and get after it. So, in a nutshell, that's what my training regimen looks like every day, twice a day. I'm a big believer in training hard, but making sure you don't overtrain. So I think keeping it at 2 a day where you do one hard session and then the other session is a lighter one is important. And it's going to help you get ready, get in shape, and like I said, give you the best chance of obtaining a world title.
So, I'm a follower of yours on Instagram. Thank you. I've taken some seminars over at Clockwork with you when I was a white belt, and
Awesome.
there are still things from that 8 years ago now. I'm a brown belt now that I still use today. And then just recently, became a teacher myself and started talking about some of your back take moves. But one of the things that I noticed in being a follower of yours on Instagram and watching your training regimen, because you post a lot of it, you also do a lot of mixed training, including wrestling.
Yeah.
And I really was wondering, and have always wondered, I know wrestling's important to jiu-jitsu, but why train so many multiple facets? And how do you feel that's helped improve you over the years? Because I think wrestling, your wrestling training has been I don't know if you've done it previously, but I've seen a lot of more intensity in your wrestling. So why train wrestling at this point?
I think it helps you become a better overall grappler, a well-rounded grappler. In jiu-jitsu, we start on the feet, so you have to have a good understanding of the takedown game. Even if you're a guard player, it's just good for you to know. And that's something I preach to my students. Be well-rounded, feel comfortable everywhere. And I think wrestling, and this is just my opinion, gives you a different sort of mindset, where in jiu-jitsu, it tends to be a little bit more relaxed and laid back, especially when you're rolling and training, nice and easy. Where wrestling is go, 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 go. It's higher intensity, in my opinion. So wrestling, since I was 11 years old, gave me that mindset that I transferred over into my jiu-jitsu, where you can see that. You can see that when I compete, where I'm always pushing the pace. I'm not looking to fall back and sit back, or just, kind of stall or wait until a certain amount of time is left on the clock to try to score. I'm always out there trying to push the pace, whether I'm on my back or on top or on the feet. I'm just looking to push the pace, and that's something that wrestling has given me. It's that mindset, that push, 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 keep going mindset, never give up. And that's something that I'm teaching to my students in jiu-jitsu now, to have that sort of mindset. Of course, it's good to have that mindset when you're competing. If you're training every day just to improve and have fun, then it's a little bit different. But if we're talking about trying to win, a certain tournament or a world title, you need to have that mindset, in my opinion, and wrestling has given me that.
Awesome. And speaking of mindset, that winning and that championship mindset, where do you get that from? Is that Is that books? Is that your students? Where do you find that winning and championship mindset? And then what's your advice for potential competitors that are watching us right now? What's your advice to them on how to keep that mindset?
Well, I think what helps me get that mindset and keep that mindset of, always working hard and, championship mindset is what I call it, is I write down my goals. You have to have a clear vision of what your goals are. When you know what your goals are, you know what you have to work towards, or what you have to do to get towards that goal. If you don't have any goals, whatever it may be, winning a world title, losing weight, getting your black belt, whatever that goal is, you should write it down. When you write it down, you're gonna have a clear vision of what you need to do to get to that goal. So when I write down a goal, I want to become the ADCC 2019 champion. I write it down. So every day when I wake up and I see that goal written down on my whiteboard, I know I have to wake up, work hard to get towards that goal. If I wake up and I feel lazy sometimes, or I feel tired and I feel sore, if I tell myself I'm just going to take the day off and sit back on the couch, but I look up at that board and I see the goal written down, it fires me up. It helps that mindset kick in, and it reminds me, it's a reminder of why I'm doing what I'm doing, to obtain my goal. So if there's anyone out there who's looking to, one day win a world title or just accomplish any goal that they have in mind, I would recommend writing it down, and even go further than that, write it down and also write down the steps in order to get to that goal. It can be simple as, you know, got to work hard, eat clean, make sure I get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep a day, you know, drink a gallon of water every day, you know, things like that that will help you keep working towards that goal. It's a reminder. You need those reminders to help you get that mindset in place and keep that mindset, because we're all humans, right? Sometimes we're going to fall off the track a little bit, get a little bit lazy, be like, oh, you know, I'm tired today. I don't really want to push hard today. But you know, when you look up and you see your goal written down, that you're going to have to push for that goal, and you know what to do.
Awesome. And, you know, as a head instructor and as a gym owner now, when you go to tournaments to coach, and when you go out there and you're prepping your guys day of, what's advice that you're giving them before they step onto the mats, before they start the match? And then two, more so, I think it's easy when we win to celebrate, but what are you telling your students after, if they maybe lost the match or what have you?
So right before they compete, I always tell my students, look, remind yourself of all the hard work you've done leading up to this moment, right? Because I'm a huge believer that your confidence comes from your training, how well you prepare, right? If you prepared half-ass, you're probably not going to be that confident when you go to compete, because you're going to tell yourself, oh, you know, I don't know if I'm ready because I kind of missed a few practices there and didn't push as hard as I could. So if my student prepared the correct way right before they compete, I tell them, listen, think back to all your hard work leading up to this moment. You know, I like to think that no one deserves to win, right? No one deserves like, oh, I deserve a world title. No one deserves it. You have to earn it. So when I tell my students, look, listen, think back to all the training you put into this moment. You've earned your right at the chance of winning that title right now. Keep that in mind. Think about all your hard work. Think about how you're going to apply your game out there when you compete. Don't think about your opponent. Don't think about what kind of game or, you know, how good their game is or, you know, what they're good at. Think about how you're going to go out there and implement your game right off the bat. You're going to be in control. You're in the driver's seat. I want you to start the fight off. I want you to set the pace, set the tempo, and let off the first attack. That's what I always tell them, because you have to be in control. You have to be in control of the match. There's no other way around it. If you want to win, you have to control the match, right? Now, if, you know, and it does happen where we lose. Everyone loses, right? And when they lose, to me, those are some of the best chances for you to level up, right? So I tell them this because I've done this from experience. If you lose a match, you know, okay, be upset. That's fine. That's normal to be upset. You know, everyone, if you're not upset, you don't care enough about it, right? That's what I like to think. So be upset, but don't be upset too long. Learn from it, right? You know, break it down. Look at what you did right during that match and look what you did wrong. Look at the positions where you could have, you know, maybe controlled a little bit better or attacked from. Look at the positions that you lost. Look at the positions that maybe you gave up, or if you got submitted, how'd you get submitted? You know, what'd you leave open, and learn from it. So whatever you see that you need to work on, you know, for the next coming weeks, you need to work on that. So let's say maybe you got caught in a triangle. Well, then, you know, these next 2-3 weeks, you should be working your posture, keeping your elbows in tight, not leaving your neck out there. So it gives you almost like a homework assignment to work on to help you improve. So, I mean, some of my biggest improvements have been done after losses, right? I've always used losses to fire me up and show me what I need to work on. You know, that's the way you should look at it. People get hung up on losses and sometimes end up quitting or not competing anymore, or saying, oh, I don't want to compete, or this or that. Look, it happens. You know, everyone loses in life and everything in life, right? It could be, you know, wherever, not only just jiu-jitsu, but use it to help you get better, learn from it, break it down, and it's going to teach you. That loss is going to teach you what you need to work on and improve on.
Awesome. So you've trained under some of the greats and been at some of the great schools in America, Lloyd Irvin, Andre Galvao in San Diego. Yeah. How has those the people you've trained under and got your belts under really influenced, one, your jiu-jitsu style today, and then two, how have they influenced you as a gym owner and a teacher right now?
Oh man, a whole ton. So I'm a big believer that you can learn from everyone. You know, always take away something from every experience you have in life. So spending time down in Maryland, spending time in San Diego, was crucial for me as far as learning and also learning what I liked, what I didn't like, you know, because there's always things that we're going to enjoy, not enjoy as much. And from that, you learn what you want to do when you have your own academy, for example. So when I was spending time at both academies, I learned, okay, you know, these are two great programs. I'm training hard. Maybe we can work a little bit more in this or in that. So I kind of picked and choose what I liked and kind of made a formula of my own. So when I had my own academy, I told myself, I'm going to play out this way, you know? And there's great things I learned from both academies. But on top of that, training too, I learned, you know, those two coaches that I had, you know, in Maryland, you know, Professor Galvao in San Diego, were two amazing coaches. They're amazing coaches. And I learned a lot, man. I learned a lot as far as training, how to push the athletes, how to push yourself as a coach too, because every day I'm learning and improving as a coach too, right? I've been a great competitor for years now, but over the last few years, I've transferred the role as being a coach and still a competitor. But, you know, my long-term goal is to be a full-time coach eventually, where I'm done competing and just focus on, you know, creating champions of my own on and off the mats. But I've learned how to push athletes, how to speak to athletes, and just how to, you know, it's just how to use different triggers to push people, because everyone has a different trigger, right? So you can't speak the same way to one guy and then the same way to another guy, because that talk may not work for that guy. So you have to learn how to speak to people and push the athletes where you're not discouraging them, but encourage them to bring the best out of them.
So what do you say? Because I know, you know, and I'm sure you have it at your academy. I see it at Clockwork, and I see it at other places where I've trained throughout, you know, America. There are guys that don't want to compete. There are guys that are just room guys, right? They're not interested in IBJJF, ADCC. You know, how do you tailor your program to those people who are just room guys? They have no interest. They're not looking to win world titles. This is just a stress reliever or a thing that they do. And yeah, they're gonna be black belts, purple belts, brown belts someday, but they're not up on the podium. So how do you tailor your teaching style and your program to accommodate people of that nature?
You have to have a balance, like everything in life. If you're not balanced in life, you're going to crash somewhere eventually, right? So I have a good balance in my academy where there's most of the program, to be honest with you, my academy is for the everyday person who wants to come in and just work towards fitness goals, building confidence, losing weight, and just obtaining their black belt one day, right? But like I said a little bit earlier, every day at 11 a.m., that there's one block scheduled off in the schedule where it says competition training. And I let everyone know from the first day that I've opened the academy, this class here is a class, if you come to, it's a class we're going to work towards winning world titles. Now, when I first opened up, some people didn't really understand what I meant by that. So when they came in, they learned quickly. They're like, okay, I don't want to do this. You know, I don't want to train for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and just, you know, get the crap beaten out of me and try to beat the crap out of other people in the room right now, which is fine, you know, but I was honest with everyone up front. You know, honesty is key, right? I was honest with everyone. I said, every day at this time, I'm not going to be your coach. That's why I say I'm not going to be your coach, right? I'm going to be your training partner. Of course, if you want to ask me a question, I'm going to help you out afterwards and all that. But think of me as your training partner during the session, right? Because I'm trying to push myself as hard as I can to win what I want to try to win. And at the same time, my thoughts is I'm going to inspire the guys around me to do the same, right? Because I'm a believer in leading from the front, right? So to me, this is the perfect time for me to build that within my academy. You know, right now I'm still in my competitive year, so I can show them, I can lead the troops from the front. Now, outside of that class, it's like a normal class. You know, we come in, we bow in, we warm up, we stretch out, we work technique, we chat, we joke, we spar. You can rest if you want to rest, that's fine. But I tell everyone, if you're serious about competing, come to this class. If you're not, that's fine, you know. And I do have guys and girls who come to my competition class who don't even compete. They just like to train hard, which is awesome too. So yeah, so I balance it out by being honest with everyone. You know, there's people who ask me, hey, can I come to this class? And I'll tell them, look, I don't think this is a class for you. but we have 6 a.m. class, 10 a.m. class, 9 a.m. class. We got 6 p.m. class, 7 p.m. class, 8 p.m. class. We got tons of classes for you. But this one class here, I don't think it's the best one for you. And if someone wants to compete, or if someone who doesn't want to compete and wants to train, if I know they can deal with it and handle it, I'll let them come in, you know? But it's just having a balance and having, you know, classes for everyone. That's, to me, the goal. Because I've been a part of academies who are too heavily favored on one side than the other, right? There's been times where I've been to, you know, when I first started training, I used to train at an academy, a small academy in New Jersey. And I remember I wanted to compete, but no one wanted to train hard to get ready for competition. So, you know, I saw, you know, the fault in that. So, because you're gonna have people who come in to your academy who want to compete. So you have to be able to offer them that too. There are going to be people who don't want to compete. So you have to offer them that too. So you have to have a good balance is what I'm trying to say. A good balance, which I think I've done a good job of doing that. And like I said, I've just learned from my experiences of traveling around the world, seeing different academies, seeing different programs. I picked and choose what to put into mine.
So how do you balance being the general, leading the pack, being an academy owner at the same time when you're out there trying to compete and win world titles yourself while owning a school?
Easy, man, easy. And people always tell me it's gonna be super hard, this and that, and it is hard, but it's easy for me in the sense of I have a great team around me, man. I have a great team around me. Jiu-jitsu, when you go out there and compete, it's one-on-one. You're out there by yourself, but not really. You have a whole team behind you. You have a whole team of people around you who are helping you work towards that goal. So the same thing with running an academy. I've built a solid team to help me, you know, get to where I am at today. You know, building the business, building the academy. You know, it takes a team. You can't do it by yourself. It's hard to do it by yourself. I got a really good piece of advice when I first set out to open the academy. A good friend of mine told me, don't be afraid to bring people on early on and hire them and give them jobs, even if you can't pay yourself at first, right? Now, that's so true, man. You know, I've had the academy almost 4 years now. I recently just started paying myself from the academy right before the COVID-19 hits. Now this hit, you know, it's a different story. But, you know, I took that sacrifice so I can bring people on to help me grow the team, the academy, the business. So my advice to anyone out there who's trying to do the same thing is you have to have a good team around you, even if that means sacrificing money, sacrificing not paying yourself. You know, you have to do that in order to build yourself up a great team.
Awesome. So as a competitor, what do you feel, who's been your toughest opponent to date that you've fought in your jiu-jitsu career, whether it was at white belt, black belt, ADCC, IBJJF? Who's been your greatest opponent so far to date?
Oh, man. So, well, I would say early on through the lower ranks, white belt, blue belt, pro belt, was my own self, my mind, right? It was just learning how to compete, learning how to stay calm out there, learning how to apply my game. And, you know, that was a big learning curve my first few years of competing. And then obviously, you know, I got a good hang of it as I went on and spent more years competing. And then once I got to the black belt level is, you know, when you start encountering some of the same people over and over again for some years. And I would say easily, you know, the best opponent I've had over the years has been Lucas Lepre. You know, he's been someone who's always brought the best out of me. That's the thing about competing too against great opponents. They're going to bring the best out of you. They're going to make you step your game up. So I would say he's been my greatest opponent that I've encountered over the years at black belt. And like I said earlier, you know, throughout the lower ranks, my greatest opponent was myself, was just my mind, learning how to control it out there.
That's definitely a good analogy, because I think a lot, and I didn't start competing until blue belt, but I think you're right. You know, especially at the lower levels, you're really not competing against one person. You're competing solely against yourself. So, is there, before we jump into questions in the last 5 minutes of the show here, is there a loss that you have on your record that you want to avenge, or somebody that maybe, if it's not a loss, do you have a dream opponent that you haven't fought yet that you'd like to?
Oh, man. So there is one match, I think, which I think will be pretty cool to have back and run it back, will be my match with Kron Gracie. we only fought once, and we fought in ADCC 2013 in Beijing, China, and we fought in the semifinals, and we were having a good match, man, and I felt I was in control. I felt like I was doing really well in the match, and he ended up catching me in an arm lock from closed guard. I made a mistake, but to give him credit, he did a good job of capitalizing on my mistake. I left my arm out there when I tried to pick him up from the closed guard, and he just snatched my arm right up. So if there's a match I can have back, would be that one. I remember speaking to Kron after the tournament was over at the hotel that all the competitors were staying at. And I saw him down in the hotel lobby, and I said, "Hey, man, congratulations. You did really well. You caught everybody, submitted everyone. Amazing run." He goes, "Thanks, man. Appreciate it." He goes, I got to say, you were definitely the toughest match, man." He goes, "I didn't know how I was going to make it out of that one. That was a tough one, man. You had some solid, heavy position on top." I said, "Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it." Made me feel a little bit better, But, I think that'd be a cool match to have back. Maybe one day it could be a super fight in ADCC or something, now that, I'm a ADCC champion as well. So that'd be cool.
Yeah. So is there an opponent out there for you that you haven't had a chance to fight yet that you'd like to get a match in, whether it's a super fight or just, maybe meet at some point in your tournament journey?
Not really, man. I wouldn't say there isn't like a certain name that I have in my mind. I usually try not to think like that. I try not to get too caught up on a certain someone. And that's a piece of advice I'll give to anyone out there who wants to be a competitor. Don't get too caught up on one specific person. Focus on yourself. Focus on your own game and improving every day. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just improving every day. So when I do encounter anyone new that I haven't fought before, I'm sure I'll be ready to enforce my game out there in the match.
Awesome, man. So question from the audience for you. How did you choose your style, your guard style, or how did you choose your style how do you choose your style when you're rolling?
When I'm rolling, so, you have to also play to your body type, right? You have to play what works well for you. So, play a game that works best for your body and I would say your age too, right? So someone told me something interesting. Someone asked me a really good question not too long ago. They're like, "Hey, JT, I've noticed you've never really been injured. Do you know why?" And I said, I don't know why. Why is that? He goes, "You play a pretty safe game. You don't really do anything that's too crazy. You don't invert. You don't go upside down. You don't do this or that." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good point, So the way I've picked and choose my game has always been taking the simpler approach, right? So whatever I do, I'm looking to either sweep, pass and submit, or take you down, pass and submit, right? That's the way I like to think about it. When I play guard, I like to think of it as a position where you're trying to off balance your partner as quickly as possible, sweep them or submit them as quickly as possible. I've never been the type of person to play guard for 9 minutes, 10 minutes long. That's just not my belief. And I preach that to my students too. When you play guard, have an approach, whatever kind of guard you want to play. You can play half guard, X guard, single leg X, whatever you want, but have the approach of attacking as quickly as possible off your guard, right? Because I look at jiu-jitsu also as like a self-defense art too, right? If you have to be on your back in a self-defense kind of scenario, you don't want to be on your back too long. You want to get out of there as quickly as possible. So that's the mindset I also have when training or competing. That's the way my style has developed. And it really came from, potentially wanting to be an MMA fighter one day when I first started training jiu-jitsu. So when I first started training, it was getting to positions where I can control someone and rain down punches, knees, elbows, right? So, and it's kind of translated to what I do now in competitive jiu-jitsu.
Awesome, man. Thank you. How has training and working with amazing women like Angelica and your fiance influenced how you coach girls and women?
Oh, man, big time. So it's actually really cool. When I first moved out to San Diego and started training at Altos, they were at a smaller academy, and I got to see them transform the academy to what it is now. And I remember Angelica at the time when I first moved to California, I think she was a purple belt, I want to say. Purple belt or brown belt. If you're hearing this, Angelica, don't be upset if I got that wrong. But I think it was a purple belt, right? And, I spent 4 years in California living there, and I got to see Angelica in 4 years, earn her black belt, win some big titles at black belt. But at the same time, I also saw her build a huge women's program in California, which, when I first started training jiu-jitsu, it was unheard of to see, a woman training. That was something especially when I first started training, I feel like it was more of an era of just like MMA, trying to punch somebody. Like it was kind of a weird era where everyone just wanted to punch each other's face in, and it was just kind of, sometimes the gyms were dirty and this and that, where over the years it's transformed now. It's getting, to where it is today. So I got to see Angelica build a huge women's program, and the way she approached the training sessions for the women was amazing, man. I like to think that women sometimes are more technical than the men, so I got to see her really break down technique and build an army, man. She's really built an army. If you look at her squad, I mean, they got world champions in the squad, and they have great people on and off the mats on her squad, and they have a full-on just women's program within the academy. It's huge, man. So when I saw that firsthand, I told myself, I want to do that one day. I want to do that one day. I have I come from a family that's mostly women. All my cousins are mostly girls and this and that. I'm like, man, it would be cool one day to, have a huge women's program in my academy and build that, because to me, that's just going to help grow jiu-jitsu, getting women involved, children, and just keep spreading it all around the world. That's how we're going to get a bigger audience. So I told my fiance, I'm like, look, when you get your black belt, you're teaching classes. So let's keep training till we get you up to the black belt level. But yeah, that's my dream, man. My dream is to definitely have a solid women's program, and seeing Angelica do that, from the ground up, inspired me to do the same. And one thing too, I got to say about Angelica, she used to be one of the only girls training at Altos when I was first there, and she used to train with the dudes, man, no problem. And sometimes she would make some of the guys cry, and I was like, damn, man. Like, I'm afraid to roll with her, man. But yeah, man. So see Angelica doing what she did, and working with my fiance. My fiance is a huge part of the success of the academy, and on the business side, and definitely on the mats too. She's currently a blue belt, but one day I told her, and I'm serious about it, when you get your black belt, you're going to be teaching. Even at purple belt, I want her to start teaching already. But we're going to get there. We're going to get there. That's one of my goals.
Awesome, man. Well, with that being said, I just want to say thank you for your time. That was all the questions in the box. I appreciate you taking out your time in the day to be on my show. I appreciate you. With that being said, JT, any closing thoughts, any closing comments, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, you guys want to continue following me and just seeing my day-to-day, operations, you guys can follow me here on Instagram at JT Torres BJJ. I have my Instagram for my academy too, Essential BJJ. I also have an online website for you guys to enjoy during quarantine time, right? Essential BJJ Online. And other than that, guys, just remember, hard work works. There's no shortcuts. It's just all hard work up the ladder to success. And I appreciate you having me on the show today. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you to the people in the comments for giving me some good questions too. Appreciate you guys.
Awesome. JT, thank you so much. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.